The red sun of New Hyundai was setting when the alarm started screaming. Captain Tae-sung dropped his coffee cup and ran to the command center. The liquid splashed across the floor, forgotten. Something was wrong, very wrong. "Report!" he shouted as he burst through the doors. Lieutenant Gina was already at her station, her fingers flying across the control panel. Her face was pale. "Captain, we have multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. 20 ships. No, wait, 30 ships. They're not responding to our hails." Tae-sung felt his stomach drop. New Hyundai was a small mining colony on the edge of human space. They had 5,000 people here, families, children. They were not soldiers. The defense force had only 200 trained fighters and a handful of old plasma rifles. "Try again," he ordered. "All frequencies. Tell them this is neutral territory." Gina nodded and spoke into her headset. Her voice was calm and professional, but Tae-sung could see her hands shaking. He did not blame her. He had been a soldier for 15 years, and he had never seen this many ships appear at once. The response came 60 seconds later. It was not what they hoped for. A harsh, clicking voice filled the command center. The translation software struggled to keep up. "Humans, you are in Rex space now. Surrender your colony. Resistance will result in death. You have 1 hour." The screen showed a creature that made Tae-sung's blood run cold. The Vrex commander was 7 feet tall, covered in dark green scales, with eyes like a snake. Its teeth were sharp and yellow. Behind it, Tae-sung could see hundreds of warriors preparing weapons. "Sir?" Gina looked at him, waiting for orders. Tae-sung's mind raced. 1 hour, 5,000 civilians, 200 defenders. He keyed the colony-wide emergency channel. "This is Captain Tae-sung. All civilians, proceed to the central dome immediately. This is not a drill. Defense force, weapons ready. We have hostiles inbound." Across the colony, families grabbed their children and ran. Teachers evacuated schools. Miners dropped their tools and sprinted for safety. The central dome was the strongest structure on the planet, built to withstand asteroid strikes. It would have to protect them now. Dr. Bin Ho was already setting up the medical center when Tae-sung arrived at the dome. The doctor was 50 years old, with gray hair and steady hands. He had been a combat medic once, long ago. Now he treated broken bones and space flu. Today, he would need all his old skills. "How bad is it?" Bin Ho asked, without looking up from his supplies. "Bad," Tae-sung admitted. 30 ships, maybe 10,000 soldiers. They want us to surrender." Bin Ho finally looked at him. "What did you tell them?" "I told them nothing, not yet." Governor Yunmi arrived moments later, out of breath. She was young for a governor, only 35, with short black hair and fierce eyes. "Captain, we need to talk, in private." They stepped into a side room. Yunmi closed the door and leaned against it. "We cannot fight 10,000 Vrex warriors. We do not have the weapons. We do not have the training. If we resist, they will kill everyone." Tae-sung understood her fear. He felt it too, but he also knew something she did not. "Governor, if we surrender, they will not show mercy. The Vrex do not take prisoners. They take slaves. Our people will spend the rest of their lives in chains." Yunmi's face went white. "You are certain?" "I fought them once, 12 years ago. I saw what they do to captives." He did not tell her the details. Some things were too horrible to speak aloud. She nodded slowly. "Then we fight. What do you need?" "Time, and a miracle." Gina's voice crackled over his communicator. "Captain, you need to see this, now!" They ran back to the command center. On the main screen, Rex dropships were entering the atmosphere, dozens of them. They were not waiting for the hour to expire. "Get me Earth Command," Tae-sung ordered. "Emergency channel, fastest route." Gina worked frantically. It will take 6 days for any help to arrive, even at maximum FTL speed. I know. Send it anyway. Send our position, our situation, everything. If we die here, at least Earth will know what happened. The message launched into space, traveling faster than light toward humanity's home world. It carried a simple distress call, a plea for help that might arrive too late. The first Virex warriors landed on the colony's outer edge. They moved through the empty streets, their weapons ready. They found no resistance. The smart humans had run to their fortress. Good. The hunt would be more entertaining. Inside the central dome, Tae-sung gathered his 200 soldiers. They were young, most of them. They had joined the defense force for adventure, not war. Now they would get more than they bargained for. "Listen to me," he said. His voice echoed in the large space. "We have 5,000 people counting on us. Mothers, fathers, children. They cannot defend themselves. That is our job. We might not have the numbers. We might not have the best weapons, but we have something the Vrex do not have. We have something worth fighting for." A young private raised her hand. She looked terrified. "Sir, will Earth send help?" Tae-sung wanted to lie. He wanted to tell her that help was coming, that everything would be fine. But soldiers deserved the truth. "They will try. But they are 6 days away. We need to hold out until then." 6 days. It might as well be 6 years. The Vrex commander's voice boomed across the colony speakers. "Humans, your hour has expired. Surrender now, or we will take your dome by force. Your choice." Tae-sung looked at Governor Yunmi. She looked at the frightened faces of her people. Then she looked back at him and nodded. He keyed the transmission. "This is Captain Tae-sung of New Hyundai. We reject your demands. This colony is under human protection. Leave now or face the consequences." The Vrex commander laughed. It was a horrible sound, like rocks grinding together. "Brave words from dead men. We will crush you before the day ends. Your bones will decorate our ships." The transmission cut off. For a moment, there was silence in the dome. Then the bombardment began. Plasma bolts struck the shield generators. The dome shook. Civilians screamed and huddled together. Children cried for their parents. The old shield technology held, but Tae-sung could see the power readings dropping. The shields would not last forever. "Gina," he said quietly, "how long can the shields hold?" She checked her instruments. "At this rate, maybe 72 hours. Then they will fail." 72 hours. 3 days. They needed to survive for 6. Tae-sung looked at his small force of defenders. He looked at the terrified civilians. He looked at the red sun setting outside the dome, casting long shadows across the colony they had built with their own hands. Then he started giving orders. They would not go quietly. They would not surrender. They would fight with everything they had. The Vrex thought humans were weak, soft, easy prey. They were about to learn differently. The first day of the siege was chaos. Tae-sung divided his forces into teams. Half would defend the dome. The other half would use the mining tunnels beneath the colony. Sergeant Dae-kwon volunteered to lead the tunnel operations. Dae-kwon was 40 years old and had been a soldier longer than most of his squad had been alive. His face was scarred from old battles. His hair was gray, but his eyes were sharp and his hands were steady. He gathered 20 volunteers in the tunnel entrance. "Listen carefully," he told them. "The Vrex are bigger than us, stronger than us, but they do not know these tunnels. We do. We hit them fast. We hit them hard. Then we disappear. Understand?" The volunteers nodded. Most were miners who knew every tunnel and shaft in the system. They carried mining charges, cutting torches, and whatever weapons they could find. It was not much, but it would have to be enough. The first Vrex patrol entered the tunnels at dawn. There were 12 warriors fully armored with plasma rifles. They moved in formation, confident and alert. They never saw Daquan's team waiting in the shadows. The mining charges exploded above them. The tunnel ceiling collapsed. Half the wrecks were crushed instantly. The survivors fired blindly into the dust and darkness. They hit nothing. Daquan and his team were already gone, using maintenance shafts the wrecks did not know existed. It was the first victory. Small, but it mattered. Word spread through the dome. The humans were fighting back. They were not helpless. In the medical center, Dr. Bin Ho worked on the first wounded defender. A young woman had been hit by shrapnel when a Vrex shell exploded near the eastern wall. Her name was Private Sora, and she refused to scream while he worked on her leg. "You are very brave," Bin Ho told her as he sealed the wound with medical gel. "I used to run track," Sora said through gritted teeth. "I was training for the Colonial Games. Guess that is canceled now. When this is over." "We will hold the games," Bin Ho promised. "You will run again." If there is an over, he thought, but did not say. On the second day, a teenage girl named Nari approached Lieutenant Gina with an idea. Nari was 16, tall and thin, with hands stained from working with machinery. Her father was the chief engineer, or had been, before a Vrex bombardment killed him on the first day. "I can help," Nari said. "I know how the mining equipment works. I can modify it." Gina looked skeptical. "Modified how?" "The plasma cutters. They are designed to slice through rock. But rock is not so different from Vrex armor. And the survey drones. We can attach cameras to them, use them to spy on the Vrex positions." Gina studied the girl. She saw intelligence in those young eyes, and pain, and determination. "Show me," she said. Nari worked through the night. She took apart 3 plasma cutters and reassembled them into something new, weapons that could be wielded by hand. They were crude and dangerous. They might explode if used incorrectly. But they worked. She also rigged 20 survey drones with cameras and transmitters. When Gina launched them the next morning, they got their first clear view of the Vrex positions. There were command posts to the north, heavy weapons to the south, and a massive troop carrier landing pad to the east. "Good work," Gina told Nari. "Very good work." The girl said nothing. She just went back to her workbench and started modifying more equipment. Grief had made her focus sharp as a blade. That afternoon, a woman named Hye-Wan requested a meeting with Governor Yunmi. Hye-Wan was a merchant, one of the wealthier colonists. She had a reputation for dealing in questionable goods, black market items, things that were not exactly legal. "I have a confession," Hye-Wan said. She looked ashamed. "I have been smuggling weapons, military-grade plasma rifles. I have 40 of them hidden in my warehouse." Yunmi's first instinct was anger. Weapons smuggling was a serious crime. But then she looked at the readings from the shield generators. 51 hours of power remaining. They needed every advantage they could get. "Show me," Yunmi said. The weapons were top quality, new models, better than what the Defense Force carried. Hye-Wan explained she had planned to sell them to a mining corporation for security purposes. Now she handed them over freely. "I am sorry," she said. "I should have reported them earlier." "You reported them now," Yunmi replied. "That counts for something. Can you use one of these?" Hye-Wan looked surprised. "Me? I am a merchant, not a soldier. Today we are all soldiers." Tae-Sung distributed the new rifles to his best marksmen. It was not 40 more soldiers, but 40 better armed soldiers made a difference. They set up firing positions along the dome's upper levels. When the next Vrex attack came, the aliens met heavier resistance than they expected. 3 Vrex warriors fell, then 5 more. The attack broke off. The humans cheered, but Tae-Sung knew it would not last. The Vrex were testing their defenses, looking for weaknesses. The real assault would come soon. On the third morning, Gina intercepted a Vrex communication. She worked through the night to crack their encryption. What she found made her blood freeze. "Captain," she said urgently, "you need to hear this." The translated message played on the command center speakers. The Vrex commander was speaking to his superiors. His words were clear and terrifying. "The humans resist more than expected, but it does not matter. We will break them. The colony has good infrastructure, good mining facilities. When we enslave the survivors, we will use this place as a forward base. From here we will raid deeper into human territory, more colonies, more slaves, more resources." Tae-sung felt sick. This was not just about New Hyundai. This was about every human colony in the sector. If the Vrex established a base here, thousands of people would suffer. He called a council with Yunmi, Bin-ho, Dai-kwan, and Gina. They gathered in a small room away from the civilians. "We cannot let them win," Tae-sung said. "Even if it means we all die here. If we surrender, they will use our colony to attack others. We have to stop them." "How?" Dae-kwan asked. "Our shields are failing. We have maybe 24 hours left. Earth is still 4 days away. Then we make these 24 hours count. We make them pay for every meter. We make them remember that humans do not break easily." Bin-ho nodded. "I am a doctor, not a warrior. But I swore an oath to protect life. If fighting protects more lives than surrendering, then I will fight." Yunmi looked at each of them. "I never wanted to be a wartime governor. I wanted to build schools, to grow crops, to raise families, but this is the job now. We protect our people, whatever the cost." That evening, the shield generators began to flicker. The power readings dropped faster. Gina ran calculations and reported grim news. "Sir, the shields will fail by morning, maybe sooner. When that happens, the Vrex will storm the dome." Tae-sung looked at his exhausted soldiers, at the terrified civilians, at the children sleeping in makeshift beds, at the old people trying to stay brave, at everyone who had trusted him to protect them. "Then we prepare for close combat," he said. "Hand to hand if necessary. We turn the dome into a fortress. Every doorway becomes a choke point. Every hallway becomes a kill zone. We make them fight for every room." Dae-kwan smiled grimly. "Now that sounds like a proper battle." As night fell on the third day, the shield generators finally died. The protective barrier around the dome vanished. For the first time since the siege began, New Hyundai was completely vulnerable. The Vrex commander saw the shields fail. He smiled his terrible smile. Tomorrow at dawn, he would attack with his full force. The humans had fought well for prey animals, but the time for games was over. Tomorrow, the colony would fall. Dawn came too quickly. The red sun rose over New Hyundai, painting the colony in blood-colored light. Inside the central dome, 5,000 people waited for the end. Captain Tae-sung stood on the upper platform, looking down at his soldiers. 200 defenders, exhausted and low on ammunition. They had maybe 12% of their bullets left. After that, they would fight with mining tools and their bare hands if necessary. He had to say something. These might be the last words many of them heard. "I am not good at speeches," Tae-sung began. His voice echoed in the quiet dome. "I am a soldier, not a politician. So I will be simple. The Vrex are coming. They want us to kneel, to surrender, to become their slaves." He paused, looking at each face, young and old, scared but standing firm. "We will not kneel. We are human. We do not break. We do not surrender. If we die today, we die free. And we die knowing that every second we fought gave our families more time, gave Earth more time to send help. That is worth dying for." A young woman stepped forward. Private Sora, the runner with the wounded leg. She limped slightly but stood straight. "Sir, permission to speak?" "Granted. I joined the Defense Force because I wanted adventure. I thought it would be exciting. Patrols. Training exercises, maybe breaking up a bar fight. She smiled sadly. I never thought I would fight in a real battle. Never thought I might die at 19. But I am glad I am here. Glad I can protect people who cannot protect themselves. My parents are in this dome. My little brother. If I die today, I die protecting them. That is enough. Other soldiers nodded. One by one, they began to speak, sharing their reasons, their fears, their hopes. Tae-sung let them talk. It was good for morale, good for the soul. An old man approached the platform. His name was Woo-sung, and he was the colony's founder. He had come to this world 30 years ago with nothing but a dream and a mining rig. Now he was 75, with white hair and a crooked back. But his voice was strong. I have a story, Woo-sung said, about Earth, about the old days, after the wars. When I was young, the planet was broken, divided, fighting itself. Billions died. But humanity survived, and from that hell, we created something new. Elite soldiers, the best of the best. We called them shock forces. Some of the younger colonists rolled their eyes. Shock forces were a legend, a myth. Old people told stories about superhuman warriors who could drop from orbit and conquer armies. Nobody really believed they existed. I see doubt in your faces, Woo-sung continued. You think I am telling fairy tales, but I was there. I saw them. During the Asian consolidation, shock forces broke a siege in Shanghai. 200 soldiers against 10,000 enemies. They won in 6 hours. I saw it with my own eyes. That was 50 years ago, someone said. Are they even still around? Woo-sung smiled. Why would Earth disband its greatest warriors? They are still out there, still training, still ready. And when the distress call reached Earth, they would have moved. Trust me, they are coming. But will they come in time? Another voice asked. The old man had no answer for that. Lieutenant Ji-na was working at her station when something caught her attention. The mining tunnels. Dae-Kwan had reported that the deepest tunnels connected to something strange. Ancient ruins. Not human-built. Something older. Captain, she called. I think I found something. A possible escape route. The precursor ruins beneath the mining tunnels. They go deep, really deep. If we evacuate the children there, the Vreks might not find them. Tae-sung considered it. How deep? At least 2 kilometers underground. Multiple chambers. The survey drones cannot map it all, but it is big enough to hide maybe 1,000 people. It was not a perfect solution, but it was something. Start evacuating the children and elderly. Quietly. We do not want to start a panic. Over the next hour, families said goodbye. Mothers kissed their children and sent them down into the dark tunnels with volunteers. Fathers tried not to cry as their families disappeared underground. It was heartbreaking, but necessary. If the worst happened, at least some would survive. Dr. Bin-ho stayed with the defenders. He refused to evacuate. I am needed here, he said simply. He set up his medical supplies in the central plaza, close to where the fighting would be heaviest. Outside the dome, the Vreks assembled their forces. 10,000 warriors formed ranks. Heavy weapons moved into position. The attack would come soon, very soon. The Vreks commander, a massive creature named Thrak, surveyed the dome with satisfaction. The humans had fought longer than expected, but now their shields were gone. Their ammunition was depleted. They had nowhere to run. Prepare for final assault, Thrak ordered. Kill the soldiers, capture the civilians. I want this done before midday. His warriors roared their approval. They had been patient. Now came the reward, the glory, the hunt. Inside the dome, Tae-sung gathered his soldiers in the central plaza. This was the last defensive position. When the Vreks breached the outer walls, the fight would come here. Hand to hand, desperate, bloody. Private Sora and 30 volunteers raised their hands. Sir, Sora said, Let us create a distraction. We will take the fight to them. Draw their attention. Give the others more time. Tae-sung wanted to refuse. It was a suicide mission, but he saw the determination in their eyes. They knew what they were volunteering for, and they did it anyway. Go, he said quietly. Make it count. The 30 volunteers slipped out through a maintenance tunnel. They moved through the colony streets, using cover and shadows. When they reached the wreck's forward positions, they attacked without warning. Plasma fire lit up the morning. Explosions echoed across the colony. The wrecks, surprised by the sudden aggression, turned to face this new threat. So-Ra and her team fought like demons, using every trick and tactic they knew. They could not win, but they could buy time. 15 of them died in the first 5 minutes. The others kept fighting. The distraction worked. The main Vrex force paused, redirecting resources to deal with the unexpected attack. But Thrak was not fooled. He ordered half his warriors to crush the human raiders. The other half would proceed with the assault on the dome. At noon, the walls fell. Vrex warriors poured through the breaches, firing as they advanced. Human defenders met them in the corridors, fighting room by room, meter by meter. Bodies fell on both sides. Tae-sung fired his rifle until it ran dry. Then he drew his combat knife and fought hand to hand. A Vrex warrior lunged at him. He dodged, struck, and brought the creature down. Another replaced it, and another. Dr. Bin Ho defended his medical station with a plasma scalpel. It was meant for surgery, but it cut through Vrex flesh just fine. He killed 3 warriors before taking a hit to the shoulder. He kept working anyway, treating wounded between attacks. Governor Yun-mi organized civilians into bucket brigades, passing ammunition and supplies to the defenders. When a Vrex patrol broke through to the civilian section, she put herself between them and a group of children. She died protecting them, a plasma bolt through her chest. The defenders were pushed back step by step until only the central plaza remained. 100 soldiers still stood, maybe less. They formed a circle around the remaining civilians. Their weapons were gone. They held mining tools, kitchen knives, broken pipes, anything they could use. Thrak entered the plaza personally. He was enormous, 9 feet tall in his battle armor. He carried a plasma cannon in one hand and an energy blade in the other. Behind him, thousands of Vrex warriors filled the corridors. Humans, Thrak said. His translator made his voice boom across the plaza. You have fought well, for prey. But this ends now. Captain Tae-sung, I offer you one final chance. Surrender, save your people, or watch them die. Tae-sung stepped forward. His armor was cracked, his face was bloody, but he stood straight, defiant. We already gave you our answer. We do not surrender, we do not kneel. You want this colony? You will have to kill every one of us. Thrak raised his plasma cannon, pointing it at Tae-sung's head. So be it. His finger tightened on the trigger. Then the ground shook. At first, Tae-sung thought it was another bombardment. But this was different. Regular, rhythmic, getting stronger. Thrak paused, his weapon still aimed. What is that? The shaking intensified. Dust fell from the dome's ceiling. Equipment rattled. The Vrex warriors looked around nervously. Then Gina's voice crackled over the emergency channel. She sounded breathless, shocked, almost laughing. Captain, you need to see this. Look up. Look at the sky. Everyone looked up through the dome's transparent sections. 3 black ships were descending through the atmosphere. They came fast, impossibly fast, trailing fire as they hit the air at hypersonic speeds. They were small, sleek, built for one purpose, war. A transmission broadcast on all frequencies. The voice was calm, professional, human. Shock forces en route. Danger close. All friendlies take cover. The 3 ships broke through the clouds like falling stars. They were not slowing down. They were accelerating, heading straight for the colony at speeds that should have torn them apart. Captain Tae-sung watched in amazement. Around him, the Vrex warriors stopped advancing, their weapons lowering as they stared at the impossible sight above them. "What is this?" Thrak demanded. "More humans? We will crush them as we crushed you." Tae-sung felt something he had not felt in 3 days. Hope. "Those are not transport ships. Those are drop corvettes, and the soldiers on them are not like us." The ship split apart at 5,000 feet. Not braking, deploying, hundreds of small objects fell from their bellies. At first they looked like bombs, but then they began to slow, each trailing a column of controlled thrust. They were soldiers, using personal re-entry systems. 200 black shapes fell in a perfect circle around the central plaza. Individual pods, individual warriors. They hit the ground hard enough to crack stone, their impact shields absorbing the massive forces. The pods opened like flowers of metal, and the shock forces stepped out. They wore black-powered armor that made them look bigger than any human had a right to be. Their helmets showed no faces, just smooth surfaces marked with unit insignias. Each soldier carried weapons that looked too heavy for normal people to lift. But these were not normal people. A figure stepped forward from the group, smaller than the others, but somehow more dangerous. The armor identified her as Commander Ra-Jin. She walked straight to Tae-sung and gave him a crisp salute. "Commander Ra-Jin, Earthshock Forces, 3rd Battalion. We received your distress call 120 hours ago." Her voice was calm, as if she had just arrived for a training exercise rather than dropped from orbit into a war zone. "Apologies for the delay. We came as fast as we could." Tae-sung returned the salute. His hand was shaking. "You made good time." Ra-Jin turned to face the Vrex forces. Thrak stood there, his plasma cannon still raised. Around him, 10,000 warriors. Behind Ra-Jin, 200 shock forces soldiers stood at attention, weapons ready. "Vrex Commander," Ra-Jin called out. Her translator broadcast to all frequencies. "You are in violation of the Human Protection Accord. You have attacked a civilian colony, killed non-combatants. This is your only warning. Withdraw immediately, or we will remove you by force." Thrak laughed. It was a horrible sound. 200 soldiers against my army? You humans are insane. We will kill you all." "Probably not," Ra-Jin said. She sounded almost bored. "But you are welcome to try. Shock forces, weapons free. Show them what Earth sends to protect its own." What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration. The shock forces moved. They did not run. They did not charge. They flowed like water through the Vrex ranks. Their combat doctrine was something Captain Tae-sung had never seen before. Close quarters, brutal, efficient, terrifying. A soldier marked as Specialist Mi Young simply vanished. One moment she was visible, the next she was gone. Her armor had some kind of adaptive camouflage that made her nearly impossible to see. Vrex warriors fell around her, their throats cut, never seeing what killed them. Heavy Gunner Ho-jin carried a weapon that looked like it belonged on a ship. Not in a man's hands. A rotary plasma cannon that roared like thunder. He walked forward into the Vrex lines, firing continuously. His armor's shield generators absorbed their return fire while his cannon tore through their cover. 30 Vrex died in the first minute. More followed. Combat medic Yoon-soo did 2 jobs at once. She moved through the plaza, treating wounded colonists with one hand while firing a compact plasma pistol with the other. She killed 5 Vrex warriors while sealing a young soldier's arterial bleed. Never stopped moving. Never stopped working. The shock forces fought like they had trained for this exact scenario 1,000 times. Because they had. They had trained in conditions that would kill normal soldiers. Gravity chambers, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures. They had turned themselves into weapons, human only in the loosest sense. Captain Tae-sung watched a shock forces soldier take on 6 Vrex warriors in hand-to-hand combat. The soldier moved faster than seemed possible, the powered armor enhancing already incredible reflexes. Punches that shattered Vrek's bone, kicks that sent armored warriors flying. In 15 seconds, all 6 were down. "Fall back!" Thrak screamed at his forces. "Retreat to the ships!" The Vreks began to withdraw. They were trained warriors, but they had never faced anything like this. Their numerical advantage meant nothing against opponents who were faster, stronger, and infinitely better trained. Commander Rajin appeared next to Tae Sung. He had not seen her move. One moment she was across the plaza, the next she was beside him. "Captain," she said, "do you want us to let them go? Or should we send a message?" Tae Sung looked at the faces of his soldiers. At Private Sora, who had somehow survived her suicide mission and made it back to the dome, bleeding and barely conscious. At Dr. Bin Ho, who was treating her wounds with supplies given by Unsu. At the bodies of Governor Yunmi and the others who had died defending their home. "Send the message," he said quietly. Rajin nodded. 3rd Battalion. Pursuit mode. Board their ships. Capture their commander. Make it loud. The shock forces changed tactics instantly. They stopped defending and started hunting. They followed the retreating Vreks across the colony, cutting down any who turned to fight. When the Vreks reached their landing ships, they found no safety there. Breaching pods launched from the 3 corvettes still circling overhead. They attached to the Vreks flagship like ticks on a beast. Shaped charges blew holes in the hull. Shock forces poured inside. What happened aboard that ship would be talked about for years. The Vreks warriors fought desperately in the narrow corridors. They had home field advantage. They had superior numbers on the ship. It did not matter. The shock forces cleared the ship deck by deck, room by room. The sounds of battle echoed through the hull. Screams, explosions, the sizzle of plasma fire. In 47 minutes, it was over. Commander Rajin personally found Thrak. The Vreks commander was in his command chamber, surrounded by his elite guard. 12 of the biggest, most dangerous warriors the Vreks had to offer. They fought like cornered animals. All 12 died. Thrak lived because Rajin wanted him to. She dragged him back to the colony, threw him down in the central plaza in front of the surviving colonists. Thrak was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His armor was destroyed. He looked up at Rajin with hatred and something else, something he had probably never felt before. Fear. "You will deliver a message to your dominion," Rajin told him. Her voice was ice. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity protects its own. Tell them that every colony, no matter how far, no matter how isolated, is under our protection. Tell them that we will come. We will always come, and we will not show mercy to those who threaten our people." She hauled him to his feet and shoved him toward his remaining ships. "Run! Tell your masters! Spread the word!" Thrak limped away, escorted by his surviving warriors. They boarded their ships and fled into orbit, into FTL, running from a force they could not comprehend. The colonists stood in silence for a moment. Then someone started clapping, then another, then everyone. The applause filled the dome. Shock Force's soldiers helped the wounded, shared medical supplies, distributed emergency rations from their ships. Captain Tae Sung found Wu Sung in the crowd. The old man was crying, smiling and crying at the same time. "I told them," Wu Sung said. "I told them the shock forces were real, that they would come." "You were right," Tae Sung admitted. "I am sorry I doubted." Dr. Bin Ho worked alongside combat medic Yun Su. They treated Private Sora's wounds properly this time. She had 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a concussion, but she was alive. Yun Su's advanced medical equipment stabilized her in minutes. "You are tough," Yun Su told her. "We can always use tough people. Ever think about joining the shock forces?" Sora laughed, then winced from the pain. "Ask me again when I can breathe." Lieutenant Gina approached Commander Rajin carefully. Ma'am, I have to ask, how did you get here so fast? Earth is 6 days away at maximum FTL. Rajin removed her helmet. She was younger than Gina expected, maybe 30 years old, with short dark hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. We did not follow standard FTL protocols. When we got your distress call, we calculated a direct route through the Corvin hazard zone, severe radiation, gravitational anomalies, navigation hazards that would destroy most ships. That is suicide, Gina breathed. That is duty, Rajin corrected. We burned out 2 corvettes making the jump, lost their engines completely, had to tow them behind the 3rd ship. But we cut the journey from 6 days to 5. Then we pushed our engines past Redline for the final approach, made it in 4.5. She smiled grimly. Worth it. Tae-sung understood then. The shock forces had not waited. They had not calculated risks. They had not filled out forms or gone through proper channels. They had heard the distress call and moved, immediately, recklessly, whatever it took. Thank you, he said. It felt inadequate. 2 words for saving 5,000 lives, but it was all he had. Rajin saluted. No thanks necessary, Captain. You held for 3 days against impossible odds. You kept your people alive. We just finished the job. You are the real heroes here. The sun rose on the 4th day over a different New Hyundai. The colony was battered, scarred, but standing. The Vreks were gone, fleeing into deep space with a story they would never forget. Captain Tae-sung walked through the damaged streets as dawn light painted everything gold. Around him, Shock Force's soldiers worked alongside colonists to repair critical systems. It was strange seeing these elite warriors doing construction work, but they moved with the same efficiency they showed in combat. Precise, professional, helpful. Private So-Ra was being loaded onto a medical transport. Her injuries needed treatment in a proper hospital. Combat medic Yun-Soo had stabilized her, but she would need surgery and recovery time. As they carried her stretcher past Tae-sung, she caught his eye and smiled. Sir, she said weakly, did we win? We won, he confirmed. You can rest now. Good. Tell my parents I will run again, just like Dr. Bin Ho promised. I will tell them. The casualties were being counted. 73 colonists dead, including Governor Yunmi, who had died protecting children. Hundreds more wounded. It could have been so much worse. It should have been worse. Without the shock forces, everyone would have died or been enslaved. Dr. Bin Ho found Tae-sung near the medical center. The old doctor looked exhausted. He had worked for 3 days straight with almost no sleep, but his hands were still steady as he carried his medical kit. I am getting too old for this, Bin Ho said, but he was smiling. You saved dozens of lives, Tae-sung replied. Maybe hundreds. Yun-Soo saved more. That woman is incredible. She taught me techniques I never learned in medical school, new ways to treat trauma, new drugs I have never seen before. He paused. Earth has come a long way since I left. The medical technology alone. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the colony come back to life. Lieutenant Ji-na was coordinating with the Shock Force's technical team. Specialist Mi-young had taken an interest in the young woman's tactical work. They were reviewing the defensive strategies Ji-na had implemented during the siege. You did well with limited resources, Mi-young told her. The surveillance drone network was smart. The tunnel operations were textbook guerrilla warfare. You have good instincts. Ji-na felt her face flush with pride. Coming from a Shock Forces soldier, that was high praise. I just did what needed to be done. That is what makes a good soldier, Mi-young replied. Not the ones who follow orders blindly. The ones who see what needs doing and do it. Across the colony, young Nari was examining a piece of Shock Forces equipment with wide eyes. Commander Rajin had given her permission to study their gear. The teenager's quick mind absorbed everything like a sponge. "How does the adaptive camouflage work?" Nari asked, pointing at Mi Young's armor. Mi Young explained the basic principles: photonic crystals, real-time environmental mapping, quantum processors that adjusted the surface patterns faster than the eye could track. Nari understood most of it. What she did not understand, she asked about. "You should apply to the academy," Mi Young told her. "Earth Military Academy. We need engineers. Smart ones, creative ones, the kind who can turn mining equipment into weapons." "I am only 16, Nari said. "So? Apply when you are 17 or 18. The academy is not going anywhere, but talent like yours should not be wasted on a frontier colony." No offense. Nari thought about it. She thought about her father. Killed on the first day of the siege, he had always told her she could be anything she wanted. Engineer, scientist, soldier, anything. Maybe this was what he would have wanted, for her to reach her full potential. "I will think about it," she said. Sergeant Dae Kwan was sharing drinks with heavy gunner Ho Jin. They sat on the remains of a collapsed wall, passing a flask of something strong back and forth. Old soldiers recognizing each other, separated by rank and training, but united by experience. "That cannon of yours," Dae Kwan said. "What does it weigh?" 90 kilograms, Ho Jin replied, "without ammunition. And you carry it by yourself?" "The armor helps. Powered exoskeleton. Force multipliers. But yeah, I carry it." He took a drink and passed the flask. "You did good work in those tunnels. Guerrilla tactics. Smart. You ever consider joining the shock forces?" Dae Kwan laughed. "I am 40 years old. Too old to start that kind of training." "We have had older recruits. It is not about age. It is about mentality. About being willing to do whatever it takes." Ho Jin paused. "Think about it. A few more like you, we could train a whole new generation." Later that day, they held a memorial service for the dead. The entire colony gathered in the central plaza. 73 names were read aloud. 73 lives lost defending their home. Governor Yunmi's name was first on the list. Commander Ra Jin attended, along with her entire battalion. They stood at attention in their black armor, helmets off, heads bowed, showing respect to the fallen, to the colonists who had held the line long enough for help to arrive. Old Wu Sung spoke at the service. His voice carried across the silent crowd. "These people died protecting what they loved, their families, their friends, their home. They knew they might not survive. They fought anyway. That is courage. That is humanity. We will rebuild this colony. We will make it stronger. We will honor their sacrifice by living, by thriving, by never forgetting what they gave for us." After the service, Tai Sung found Commander Ra Jin standing alone, looking at the damaged dome. The repairs would take months, maybe years, but the structure was sound. The colony would survive. "Can I ask you something?" Tai Sung said. "Of course." "Why did you really come so fast? You could have waited, followed safe routes, arrived when your ships were ready. Why risk everything?" Ra Jin was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "Because 10 years ago, I was on a colony like this one. Frontier world called New Seoul. We were attacked by pirates. The defense force fought hard, but we were outnumbered. We sent a distress call. We waited, and waited, and waited. When did help arrive? 6 days. By the book. Following all proper procedures. Safety protocols, risk assessments." She turned to look at him. When the rescue fleet arrived, they found 3,000 colonists dead, including my parents, my sister, everyone I knew. The rescuers had followed all the rules. They had been careful and safe, and everyone died anyway. Tai Sung understood. "So you made sure it would not happen again." I joined the shock forces the day after my 18th birthday, went through the hardest training humanity offers, learned to push past every limit, became someone who could make a difference. And I swore that whenever I heard a distress call, I would do whatever it took to arrive in time. Rules be damned, safety be damned, I would get there. You did, Tae-sung said quietly. You saved 5,000 lives. We saved 5,000 lives, Rajin corrected. You held for 3 days. Without you, we would have arrived at a graveyard. Never forget that, Captain. You and your people are heroes. That evening, the merchant Hye-won approached Tae-sung. She looked different, cleaner, more confident. She had spent the day helping repair the water systems and distribute food. I want to stay useful, she told him. I spent years smuggling and making profit. Maybe it is time I did something that actually matters. If you are rebuilding the defense force, I would like to join. Tae-sung raised an eyebrow. You are a merchant, a smuggler. I was a smuggler. Now I am just someone who wants to protect her home. Will you train me? He considered her. She had come forward with her illegal weapons when it mattered. She had fought during the siege. She had proven herself when it counted. Report for training tomorrow morning, he said. It will not be easy. Good. Easy is boring. The Vrex commander Thrak reached his homeworld 3 days after the disaster at New Hyundai. He reported to his superiors, the High Council of the Vrex Dominion. They listened to his story with growing alarm. 200 soldiers defeated our army? The High Counselor demanded. Impossible. I saw it myself, Thrak insisted. His wounds were still healing. They are not like other humans. They are weapons, enhanced, trained beyond anything we have encountered. They board ships like boarding is nothing. They fight like death itself. Are all human soldiers like this? No. These are special, elite. They call them shock forces. But the message is clear. Every human colony has this protection. Attack one and these soldiers will come, fast, angry, unstoppable. The High Council discussed for hours. Finally, they made a decision. Mark human colonies as forbidden targets. We will not risk war with a species that creates soldiers like that. Let other races test them. We will watch and learn. The word spread through the galaxy. The story of New Hyundai traveled from world to world. Some dismissed it as exaggeration. But those who had fought humans before knew better. Humanity was small in numbers, spread thin across the stars. But they protected their own with a ferocity that terrified their enemies. 6 months later, New Hyundai was almost fully rebuilt. The dome had been repaired and reinforced. New shield generators, more powerful than before, protected the colony. The defense force had expanded to 500 soldiers, all trained by Captain Tae-sung, using tactics he learned from the shock forces. Private Sora had recovered from her wounds. She could run again, just like Dr. Bin Ho had promised, and she had applied to join the shock forces. Her application was pending, but Commander Ra-jin had personally recommended her. The odds were good. Nari had been accepted to the Earth Military Academy's engineering program. She would leave in 3 months. Her inventions during the siege had become case studies in creative problem-solving. The girl who modified mining equipment into weapons would help design the next generation of military technology. Sergeant Dae-Kwan had surprised everyone by applying to the Shock Force's veteran training program. At 40, he was older than most recruits, but his performance in the tunnels had impressed them. He was willing to try. That was enough. In the central plaza, they unveiled a monument. A statue carved from local stone. It showed a Shock Forces soldier in full armor, hand extended as if reaching down to help someone up. The inscription was simple. They came when we called. They will always come. Captain Tae-sung stood before the monument with Commander Ra-jin. The shock forces had departed weeks ago, returning to Earth for their next mission. But Ra-jin had come back for the unveiling. She owed these people that much. "Will you really always come?" Tae-sung asked her. "Every time?" Rajin looked at the monument, at the colonists gathering to see it, at the children playing in the plaza, alive because 200 soldiers had dropped from the sky like avenging angels. "Every time," she said. "That is our oath. That is our purpose. Humanity spreads across the stars. We are scattered, separated, vulnerable. But we are never alone. Because wherever humans call for help, the shock forces will answer. We will drop through fire. We will cross impossible distances. We will face any enemy. And we will never stop coming." She saluted the statue. Tae-sung saluted with her. And the colonists, every one of them, raised their hands in respect. The Vreks had thought humans were weak, soft, easy prey. They learned the truth the hard way. Humanity protects its own, always.